Year on year, London-listed Fulcrum Utility Services, which owns Fulcrum, an independent utilities business, has seen its share price almost triple in value. With more, we're speaking now to the Chief Executive, Martin Donnachie. Martin, welcome. Before we get on to the performance of the share price and the company itself, I want to take a look a little bit about what it is you do and the business model that you apply.
Yes, we're a utilities connections business, so we connect people up to the gas, electricity and water networks. So if you've got a new or existing building, we'll connect it up to those networks right up and down the country, and we'll work on very small, very large contracts. And at the same time, one thing that we've got the ability to do is own the gas pipelines that we install, as well as the meters as well, and we can take a recurring revenue from the gas that flows through those.
Who are your clients?
It's a complete mixture, so it will be construction companies, developers, house builders, businesses that are setting themselves up that maybe don't know who to go to for a gas or electricity connection and may well come to Fulcrum.
And the ongoing business is the maintenance of the pipes and the general sort of servicing and so forth, for which presumably you charge a regular maintenance fee.
Well, one of the great things of generating cash in one side of the business is we can invest that in our assets. At the moment, we can only own gas pipelines and gas meters, but we aim to own electric cables and other things down the line, and that gives us a lovely recurring income from, in the gas pipelines case, the gas that flows through is paid for by the gas suppliers who will pay Fulcrum for the pipelines that they use.
Do you acquire existing pipeline business, or are you just into laying new pipes and servicing new builds and so forth?
So far it's just been the pipelines that we've built, that we've owned, but we've moved into a place now that we've got a nice cash balance where we can start to buy pipelines from other people. There's only a few companies like Fulcrum that can own gas pipelines as an independent network operator, and there are lots of people that can install. So we're approaching those other companies to see if they would like us to take those pipelines on, and that can again help build up our balance sheet and give us more recurring income.
Yeah, about 18 months ago I know there was some news released about the fact you wanted to get into the housing business, that is the business of connecting up new builds and so forth. How is that business going? Because that to me sounds like potentially a very large bit of business to take.
Yes, we're really excited about that. We haven't done a lot in housing over time. We've always worked in the housing sector, but for the larger developers, we haven't been able to offer the gas plus electricity service that they've wanted. Now we're able to do that, so we've recruited a team, a new housing team that we put in place a year ago, and they're talking to the large developers across the country, and we're really excited because one thing that Fulcrum prides itself on is delivering a really good service, and the house builders have said that's something that they're really looking for, and from the early projects we've worked on, that's gone very well.
How much of the business now is housing?
It's still a tiny proportion, so it's probably £2 to £3 million of the total, so about 10%. Yes, of revenue. Yeah, yes. But we've got high hopes for that growing.
And what were the revenues at the last count? What were the last?
We were 35 million revenue overall. And our plan is to grow that moving forward. As you know, the company has been moving to an ever more profitable model, and the next phase, what we've been working on for the last 12 months, is to really grow that top line beyond that.
So where's most of the revenue coming from then?
It's coming from the projects that we deliver, and we're really well spread. We work on a high volume of small value contracts. We don't really see ourselves as contractors, more a service delivery business that can work for large, small customers on very complex projects through to reasonably straightforward.
What about the profit and loss account? I mean, bearing in mind, I know on the balance sheet you've got, I believe, no debt, and I think you've got something like £12 million of cash, a very enviable position to be in, doubtless. But what about the P&L? What are you doing to continue to grow the business profitably?
Yes, well, we've got growth of the top line as our main priority. So we've been, as we've made efficiencies in the business, ploughing the cost savings into business winning activities, recruiting people, investing in our website and the like. We believe we can grow in housing, we can grow with our current customers. We've got lots of repeat business with people, and we're getting ever closer to those people. We're good at large projects as well. It was Fulcrum that put gas onto the Olympic flame in London, and we know we're good at those projects, and provided the risk ratio is right, we'll work on more of those. So we've invested in a lot of business development people and the backup people as well to really drive that top line.
Yeah. Where do you see the business going from here? And what's the plan? Because you've explained where your revenue is coming from at the moment. How do you do that and continue to engage with investors?
Yes, Fulcrum was traditionally a gas business, and we've got about a 12% share of that gas connections market. We've got less than a 1% share of the electrical market, and we've spent a year bringing people in to give us the skills we need to deliver electricity. And our customers generally want us to deliver more than one service at the same time to simplify it for them. So there's lots of growth in electricity to come, but at the same time, we're investing in IT, we're investing in development for our people to make sure that for every pound that we're winning on the top line, we're bringing as much of it through to the bottom line as possible. Yeah,
let's take a look at the share price chart, because this is interesting. This goes back to, I think, May 2013, I think, when you joined the business.
Yes.
And you can see that the rise in shares since then, we're now trading at something like 58.5 pence, 90 plus million market cap. What are your targets from here? What should investors take away from this to know how you're going to grow the business and where the share price potentially is going to go?
Yeah, no, I think the historic record is there because we've brought credibility into the shares. We've got a track record now of delivering what we said we were going to deliver. So going forward, I think people would invest in Fulcrum if they believe in what we're saying in terms of where we see the growth in housing, in large and small projects, the fact that we're getting closer to repeat customers, the fact that all of those customers really want us to deliver electricity, and that's a very small part of what we do now, and that will become a very large part as well. And I think the other thing for investors that they really like is that recurring revenue from the assets, and we've only really started to see what we can do there, not just in building assets ourselves, but going to other people to buy them from them and using the cash we're generating in a very productive way.
I know you're only, very briefly, I know you're only concerned with the UK, so Brexit probably doesn't mean too much to you, although there is this potential possibly for a slowdown. Certainly the Bank of England now possibly even looking at raising interest rates at some time. Do all these things matter to you?
We see that we're trying to win market share. So if economic conditions are reasonably benign, where we've not really got much growth, we believe we can still grow very strongly as a business within that. Obviously, if markets like the housing market does well, or the construction market in general does, that can only help us. So we're not complacent, and we're watching things like costs of delivery, subcontractor costs, pressure on prices. We're not seeing too much of that so far, but we're keeping an eye open for that.
Yeah. Look, okay, it was a great story, and thanks for coming along, Martin, to talk to us a little bit about that. Martin Donnachie is the Chief Executive of Fulcrum Utility Services, and a company that's worth just shy of £100 million as of today.